Howdy, boys. This weekend we got UFC Fight Night Royval versus Taira. Overall, this card looks kind of shit. Name value is not there, but it will probably be good nonetheless. Typically, cards that you intend to be mid happen to be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to it regardless. Let's get into the first fight. Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Rocha. Now, I'm not even going to bullshit here. I don't really know either of these guys. I remember seeing Lucas Rocha fight on the Contender Series, and it's been too long since I've seen Clayton Carpenter. It's been over a year, and I just don't remember his ass. I'm going to go with Lucas, even though he's at a height and reach disadvantage. I like that he has a lot of experience, even if it is fighting cans, and he's younger. So I'm going with him. Probably a decision, since Clayton's never been finished. Second fight on the card is Dan Argueta versus Cody Haddon. I'm going with Cody Haddon. He has finished all the fights that he has won, only lost to Steve Erceg, and we all love Steve Erceg. Dan Argueta hasn't won a fight in over a year, had 2 no contest and a submission loss since then. Cody Haddon is also younger. He looked really good on the Contender Series, and that's about all I got to say for this one. Going with Haddon by, I don't know, he finishes every fight, so I'm going to say he gets a late sub. Third fight on the card is Julia Pilastri versus Corey McKenna. I really don't know who I was going, didn't really have someone to choose on this one. I don't really care for one, and then I think they're both just all right. I don't think they're championship material or even necessarily top 5 material. But upon hearing that this is a short notice fight for Julia Pilastri, I'm going to go with Corey McKenna getting it done by decision. I don't think she can finish Julia. Julia is decently tough, and she's got all right wins. But I think Corey will manage to get it done by decision. Fourth fight on the card, Chris Barnett versus Junior Tafa. Now, I want to go with Chris Barnett. He's funny, he's fat, and I think Junior Tafa is a bit of a salty cunt. But Chris Barnett has taken a lot of damage throughout his career. He's significantly shorter. He relies much more on kickboxing, and I just never trust kicks at heavyweight. And Junior's boxing is pretty damn good. I'm going to have to go with Junior. I think he can get him out of there probably round 2, early round 2. Fifth fight on the card, Thimba Garimbo versus Nico Price. I'm going to go with Thimba Garimbo. I think Nico is getting kind of washed. He's 35. He's officially eligible for UNC status. He's lost 2 of his last 3 fights by KO. And the one he won was against Alex Morono, and I don't think much of Alex Morono. He's just a tough machine, otherwise not that great. I think Thimba's faster, more skilled. Going with Thimba by late finish. Sixth fight on the card, Jonathan Pierce versus Pat Sabatini. I'm pretty torn on this one. I really don't know who to go for. I think it's one of the closer fights on the card. I think Pat Sabatini is more technical, the better grappler, and the more dangerous submission artist. But I do think Jonathan Pierce has more power on the feet and more chance to finish standing up. But he also gets really sloppy on the feet and overextends and gets himself out of position. But I do think his height and reach advantage, well, not much of a reach advantage, it's only 1 inch, but I don't know, man, fuck. I'll go with Jonathan Pierce. I think he could eventually hurt Pat Sabatini, but then if it goes to the ground, I could see Pat subbing him. I'll still go with Jonathan. I'll say he gets it. I think he'll end up hurting him a couple of times and win a decision. Seventh fight on the card, CJ Vergara versus Ramazan Tamirov. I'm going with CJ Vergara. I don't know shit about Ramazan Tamirov, and I ain't going to pick someone just because their name ends in OV or EV. Looked at his record, and Ramazan had beat a fuck ton of cans. Surprise, surprise. And most of his finishes, I guess fucking 10 of 11, come by TKO or KO. CJ Vergara has never been KO'd. Dude's tough as nails and gets scrappy. Only been submitted twice. Ramazan's only submitted someone once. I've seen CJ. He's tested. Going with CJ. Don't trust a can crusher. Opener of the main card, Abdul Razak Alisson versus Josh Fremd. I'm going to go with Abdul Razak. I think he's just more dangerous all around. He's undoubtedly stronger than Josh Fremd, and I don't like some of Fremd's losses recently, like Petroshki and who else did he lose to? Treshawn Gore. Kopolov's not a bad loss, but I just don't think he's going to be able to manhandle Abdul. I don't think he'll be able to outstrike him either. He does have the height advantage and a reach advantage, but somehow I could imagine that playing into Abdul's favor. Damn, I didn't realize how old Abdul is. 39. I don't like that, but I don't know. He doesn't seem too washed yet. Damn, that does make me really hesitant. I'll still go with Abdul by late finish. Ninth fight on the card is Daniel Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. I'm going to go with Daniel Rodriguez. I trust more in his power and his usage of his range. He is on a 3-fight losing streak, but I rate all 3 of the fighters he's lost to higher than I do Alex Morono. And Alex Morono recently, I think since 2022, has been on a win one, lose one streak. Alex is good. He's technical. As they always say in every one of his fights, he's a student of the game, but he's not powerful or strong. Really, all he's got is technique, and I just think Daniel is the antithesis of that. He is powerful. He is pretty strong. I think he could potentially put Alex out. I could possibly see Morono, in a way, maybe getting a sub over Daniel. I just don't think it's likely. I think he's going to get pieced up on the feet to a decision. 10th fight on the card, Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia. I'm going with Grant Dawson. I think he will just use his very good grappling and get a decision win. I think he's just going to be too strong, too oppressive. Rafa has no fucking pop in his punch, and Grant Dawson has god-awful dog shit striking. So I don't see this being a striking match. I think it's going to be purely a grapple match. There's a potential for Garcia to submit Dawson. He's only got 1 submission in the UFC, though. I think he's got 8 on his record. But all the rest besides that 1 come outside of the UFC. And I just think Grant's too aware in the grappling to get submitted. So yeah, going with Grant by decision. 11th fight on the card, Chidi Njokuani versus Jared Gooden. It's another one of these where I really don't know who to pick. I'm not really confident in either guy. I do think Chidi will be able to use his range well. But I've also kind of seen him quit against guys in the UFC. And I don't really think highly of Jared Gooden, and I haven't really seen much. I think he's only had 2 or 3 fights in the UFC. And they both have power. I think I'd lean towards Chidi having more power, though. And goddamn, 80 inches of reach at welterweight is fucking crazy. Fuck. I hate these fights like this, man. I'll go with Chidi. I think he can manage a fucking KO at some point. In the co-main event, we have Brad Tavares versus Jun Young Park. I'm going to go with Brad Tavares. I think he's a more skilled striker and hits harder than Jun Young Park. And I think Park relies pretty heavily on his grappling game and his submission offense. And Tavares has rock-solid takedown defense. And I know he's been TKO'd twice recently, 2 of his last 3 fights. But both of those guys hit harder and are better strikers than Park. And I think Tavares can mix it up pretty well. I think he'll outstrike him to a decision. And in the main event, we have Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. I'm going to go with Tatsuro Taira. I think Brandon Royval is the better striker, but I don't think he has enough power to put out Taira unless he gets just an absolute perfect shot. Taira's gotten a little better at striking. Still not up to snuff, I think, for winning the belt. But I think his defense will hold up and his chin to not get KO'd within the 5 rounds. I think his edge is going to be in his strength and the grappling. Royval is a good grappler, but he takes a good bit of chances, and he's does a lot of scrambles, and I think that's where it's going to lead into trouble for him. I think Taira will be a step ahead in the grappling, and I think his strength will be his big advantage over Royval. Maybe he can find a submission, but I'm leaning more towards a decision. And that's all I gotta say for this card. If you enjoyed this shit, like, comment, subscribe. If not, I'll see you next time. Godspeed, cunts.